Hello Prepper Nation, hello YouTube and Facebook, Perrin Lovett here for another exciting episode of Prepper News Weekly for this Friday, May the, I think it's the 12th, 2018. This is going to be a little bit of a different take. We're here once again in the Top Shelf Cigar Studios, Top Shelf Cigars. Look it up on Google for all your cigar needs. And I'm going to cover just a couple of quick topics. It's not that there wasn't news this week, it's just I wasn't really paying attention to it. We of course had the good news out of the Korean Peninsula, and it looks like after 60-something years of armistice and war, we may actually have peace, and we may have reconciliation between North and South Korea, and we've already had some American citizens that were held prisoner that have been released. The summit is coming up the beginning of June. It's amazing. And I'm optimistic that the same spirit might carry over to Iran, where we've also had about a 60-year involvement, really over nothing, wasn't our business, but we might have the ability to get out of that. Trump taking a very hard line. It seems almost unnecessary canceling a deal that was technically being adhered to. Maybe we're going to get a better deal. I don't know the full deal, and we're going to keep this one short, not going to go into that. I read an article, my column for the Piedmont Chronicles this week was about Georgia's new hands-free talking texting law, similar laws around the country, and a comparative look at Germany. I may post a link down below, or you might just want to go to the Piedmont Chronicles via Google and look at my latest column. There's going to be more about that, especially about the coming robo-cars. They're going to be tiny, plastic, electric-powered bubble cars that the government's going to control, and you're going to lose all control. Now, on the other hand, you'll be able to text and sleep to your heart's content while somebody else drives you around at their speed where they want you to go and so forth. But now, you may have noticed the cover picture was of a cute little bumblebee. First, let me encourage everybody, of course, to subscribe to the channel, like this video. If you're on Facebook, type in the search bar, Freedom Prepper. We've got a page and a closed group. You have to apply to be a member of the group. Do so. 66,000, 67,000 people are members. It's a lively group. That's where all the best information is going these days, where you'll find this video. And check it out. Check it out. Anyway, I want to talk about bees. Because preppers, this isn't a news item, but preppers need to know about bees. If you have a homestead, you have a retreat, you keep maybe rabbits or chickens, you seriously might want to look at bees. Let me just read you a short essay written by Mr. Michael Rigdon, who is an expert beekeeper and a homesteader and entrepreneur. He wrote that in the beekeeping world, you can have two things. You can make honey or you can make bees. They say you can't do both. You make bees by splitting one of your hives into two smaller, weaker hives. This puts a strain on both of them to produce more bees for their colonies, which in turn leads to less extra honey they make than we can take from them. This is what Mr. Rigdon is doing this year, making more bees. The effect is, of course, that I won't have much extra honey this year, and I've had his honey, very good stuff. That's one of the benefits of the bees. That's the bad news. Making more bees, you have less honey. The good news is that next year I should have plenty if Mother Nature is kind to me. The amount of money I put into my beekeeping adventure is significant. I'm going into my 4th spring this year. I've probably lost half of all my bees throughout this whole ordeal. Most due to pests and swarming. I'm not a beekeeper, I don't really understand that, but maybe we will shortly. I'm sure some of this is due to my inexperience. I refuse to give up, never quit. It's a great concept. I enjoy being surrounded by hundreds of thousands of bees. There are a lot of people that don't like to be around one bee. But if you want the honey, if you respect Mother Nature, if you understand how pollination works, bees are good. And contrary to popular belief, bees just don't go out like hornets or mosquitoes or politicians and attack people. He loves being around hundreds of thousands of bees. He's an adrenaline junkie, and that part of him demands it. So if I tell you this year that I don't have a lot of honey to sell or give you, you'll know why. He's a Georgia Bulldog fan, and like we say down in Bulldog country, just wait till next year. So you're keeping bees. You want to make bees or you want to make honey? I'm not the expert, but guess who happens to be here in the Top Shelf Cigar studio with me? Why, it's Mr. Michael Rigdon, the bee expert. Mike, how you doing today?
Just fine, Baron. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, just as good as a cheapskate YouTuber with no quality controls can. Can you give us just a brief state of the bee union to let the folks know how bees are going, and tell us anything you want to about beekeeping?
Well, right now it's mid-May. We're in the middle part of Georgia, so we're in what's called the flow. The flow being the bees are at their maximum working capacity right now. They're bringing in the pollen, they're bringing in the nectar, they're making honey, and which in turn we call the flow. It's probably going to go on for another 2 or 3 weeks. That's when we'll make 90% of the honey that we'll be able to salvage and steal from the bees this year. And in reality, that's exactly what beekeepers do. They rob their hives.
A very important man always has business to conduct.
We rob their food, and that's exactly what beekeepers do, and that's that way we can produce honey. Or have honey to sell. It's a good thing for a prepper to have a way to make a little extra cash. It also, honey is a good bartering tool. You can also use bees for self-defense. I try to keep one up near my front gate of my property in the event that some people come to try to get in that I don't like. I have a rope that I can pull. Pulls one of the legs out from underneath the hive falls over. You've got 85, 100,000 bees around your front gate that will usually deter anybody that wants to come in. And that's just a bonus that you have for having bees. The other thing is I have neighbors that constantly bring me vegetables from their gardens. The last 3 years they've had the best gardens they've ever had. Understand that I've got probably 500,000 bees at my property, and they go 5 miles out foraging for food. In turn, they pollinate my neighbor's gardens real well, and I get more tomatoes and cucumbers and corn or anything else that they have. They bring me bags full of it. So it's a good bartering tool. It's a good thing to have. It's good for Mother Nature. We'll all die without bees. Before bees came around, they're not natural to the United States. They were brought in over from Europe, and that's where the beekeeping started in America. Before then, we had wasps and bumblebees, which is not a honeybee. They're either Russian or Italian. So that's where we have get our bees from. You have to have a little bit of knowledge if you want to get into beekeeping. I suggest you get Beekeeping for Dummies. It's a great book. It tells you all the information you need to get started. The best way is just to buy a couple of hives and start learning and studying and start producing honey your second year. Usually the first year you get nothing out. You're just trying to keep them alive. They're finicky and they have a mind of their own. The queen rules the whole hive. There's only one queen in a hive. If she doesn't do right, the hive's going to die. One of the things Perrin mentioned earlier was swarming. That's a natural thing that bees do. They swarm. That's when they feel like there's not enough room in the hive. This is what experts tell us is why they swarm. Not having enough room in there. They grow so much. The population gets so much. There's not enough room for the queen to lay eggs, which she'll lay 1,000 to 1,500 eggs a day. It takes a lot of bees to make 1 ounce of honey. I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of miles they have to fly to even produce a pound of honey. It's a ridiculous amount. But they work themselves to death. They only live 6 or 7 weeks on their best because they work themselves to death. But it's a great hobby. It's a good thing to have. I've met a lot of people through beekeeping. It's all because they want my honey. I mean, that's exactly what it is. Without bees, I probably wouldn't even have any friends at all. So. But with that, it's a good, like I said, it's a good bartering tool. You can trade it for other things, like necessary things like liquor and firearms and ammo, things like that. So you always have.
He's our kind of guy.
You always have a barter. You always want to have something to barter with, and there's not going to be that many beekeepers in your community of preppers. So you could possibly be the only one that has honey. So when the crap hits the fan, you'll have something to barter with instead of cash, because it's going to be worthless at one point. So you can trade it for all kind of good stuff. And I suggest you get the book, get you some hives, start at least with 2. If you have any questions, stay tuned here. We'll be back later on and let you know how the honey flow has done for me this year. See how much we make. I should have, maybe 100 pounds of honey this year. I'm splitting all my hives and make more bees. So like I said earlier, I should have twice as many bees this next year as I do this year. And then we'll split them again. And my goal is to get 20-25 hives within the next couple of years. But that's about all we have in the bee world today. If you have any bee questions, send them to Parent and we'll try to get you an answer. And you can check out my YouTube channel. I have absolutely no subscribers at all except me. And it's Michael Rigdon on the YouTube channel. Just check it out, and you can possibly be my second subscriber, which absolutely will get you nothing for it. But anyway, it's to make me feel better. But anyway, that's all from the bee guy, Mike the bee guy. And I hope he edits some of this out. But if he doesn't, what the hell is get what you pay for. Have a good day.
Thanks, Mike. And he doesn't know we don't do much editing around here. And I hope the sound is. My phone got updated, and my studio camera got updated, and I had to adjust the sound. If the sound is low, turn up your volume. That always works. I'll put a link down to Mike's YouTube channel. I'm going to go on and subscribe. I hope you subscribe here. Thanks to everybody that's joined up recently. And this really worked out well. I was talking to Scott yesterday about Iran and how I was going to cover that. And it wasn't a slow news week, but I was kind of worried I wasn't going to have enough information to make this worthwhile. But I think we have more than made up for that. The Buzz on Bees. You guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you back no later than next Friday.